and welcome everyone to this special Expleo International Women's Day celebration. I'm Valentin, the Talent Acquisition Marketing Manager at Expleo, your host for today, and I'm absolutely thrilled to be here with you on this significant occasion. Today, we are not just celebrating women worldwide, but embracing this year's powerful motto, Accelerate Action. Before we dive into our inspiring conversation with our guests, who I will present in a minute, I'd like to share a bit about our Women at Expleo community. This incredible community first came about in mid-2022 with the fundamental idea of ensuring every community member felt heard. It's a community that focuses on empowering colleagues and embracing diversity. Now, here we are at the beginning of 2025, ready to kick off our community and initiatives with a bang. We are extremely excited about upcoming events, sessions, webinars, podcasts, and so much more. And now, about today's theme, International Women's Day 2025. This year, we are highlighting the urgent need to accelerate gender equality. Because according to the World Economic Forum's latest report, at the current pace, it would take over 130 years to achieve full gender parity globally. That's simply too long to wait. While we've made tremendous strides in areas like education and healthcare, significant gaps remain in economic participation and political empowerment. For instance, women still earn approximately 20% less than men globally, and only 26% of parliamentary seats worldwide are held by women. These statistics remind us why we need to pick up the pace where it counts. I'm delighted to introduce our fantastic speakers today who will share their insights and experiences. Priya, Agility Lead, Annie, Project Delivery Manager, and Shimbavi, Project Coordinator. Thank you all for joining this celebration today. Let's dive right into our conversation. I'd like to start with a question for all of you. Why does International Women's Day hold personal significance for you? And can you share perhaps a challenge that inspired you to accelerate action towards gender equality? Priya, let's begin with you perhaps.
Yeah, of course. So International Women's Day holds personal significance because I'm a woman. But also it's a day to kind of really reflect and hone in on the achievements, the strengths and resilience of women throughout history, right up until the present day. And being a woman and the eldest of three, and with migrated parents from India, it was really down to me to not only create a pathway of success for my younger siblings and, to kind of motivate them and to encourage them, but also in some ways to prove to my parents that I, as a woman, can be in the world of IT, or as they used to say, male-dominated industries. So it really holds significance for me because it's an opportunity to honor women across, their own personal walks of life and celebrate diversity, celebrate women excelling in their careers, but also to be vulnerable and, share struggles and challenges, give advice and gain advice on how to navigate these challenges. A challenge that has inspired me to #accelerate action is the consistent underrepresentation of women in leadership positions, in positions where they are able to make decisions. And when we look at gender diversity and the number of females in leadership positions, whether that's in tech, in politics, or business, it's very clear that the progress to achieve gender balance and diversity is very slow. And, seeing how women are undervalued or dismissed, and unfortunately I have experienced this, despite their amazing skills and potential, has really motivated me to challenge this perception and advocate for initiatives that promote equality, hence Women at Expleo, which we can talk about a little bit later. And I think it's essential not just to celebrate women on particularly International Women's Day, but to kind of also alter the mindset, the culture and the environments where women are not seen as equal every day. And I think it's also about being aware of how we can promote women to better positions, how we can create better opportunities for them, but also how we can work with our allies to strengthen a partnership in the professional world.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that powerful story, Priya. Annie, what about your perspective?
Yeah, I would echo everything that Priya was saying. I'm at the older end of my career, so I started in a very traditional female career, and I wasn't an ambitious person at all, and felt that those were the only opportunities available to me. But what's inspired me towards accelerating action has been the men that were around me, and so my career only moved and I only realised these other opportunities were available to me through male managers that I had. And I was kind of deployed a bit like a chess piece. So I moved out of a traditional secretarial role and ended up in IT engineering and network management roles. So part of the passion for me about this is also making this equality story relevant to men and realizing the part they can play within that. So I think we have a lot of shadow conversations around men where they have these concerns about women's opportunities, both for their wives and their daughters. But they are shadow conversations. They're not out in the open at the moment. And I think that's one of the things that I want to accelerate, is enabling those voices to be heard as well.
That really resonates, Sunny. Thank you. Shimbavi, I would love to hear your thoughts as well, please.
Sure. Where do I even start? So, echoing the sentiments of my two wise colleagues here, International Women's Day isn't just a date on the calendar, it's a reminder of how far we've come and how much further we need to go. For me, it's personal because I've seen firsthand the power of strong, fearless women shaping the world. Whether it's my mother in my own family as a homemaker, colleagues in the workplace, or women I know just in everyday life. I think about my 3-year-old daughter and the kind of world I want her to grow up in, one where she has never has to fight to be heard, respected, or given the same opportunities as anyone else. So that's what keeps me pushing forward. And you know, what inspires me to accelerate action towards gender equality is having worked in industries like finance and energy, which are typically traditionally male-dominated spaces, and I've seen moments where sometimes women had to prove they belonged even when they were the smartest people in the room. And I remember personally early in my career sitting in meetings where my ideas were sometimes overlooked until a male colleague repeated them and suddenly they were brilliant. So instead of letting it get to me, I decided to work towards the change. And it's why I champion mentorship. And because at the end of the day, equality isn't just a nice to have, it's a must have. And the faster we get there, it's the better for everyone.
Agree. Thank you. Now, diving into some individual experiences, Priya, I'm curious about unconscious bias. Have you ever caught yourself with an unexpected bias, perhaps? And if yes, how did you address it?
Yeah, so I'd be lying if I said that I've never had unconscious bias, because who can really say that nowadays, right? And there's a fine line between unconscious bias and trying to be safe or trying to protect yourself from harmful scams and things like that on the internet. But biases can always creep up without us being fully aware, and it's just as important to reflect on them when they do arise. So some of my unconscious biases stem from cultural norms and societal expectations. And believe it or not, but I don't have a manual license, because when I was growing up, my dad used to say, manual isn't for women, automatic suits women better. And for some part of me, I grew up really believing that there were certain professions, certain behaviors and roles that only men outplay and women can't. And I've had to since then sort of unlearn that and unpick that thought process. And I've become more aware of my thoughts and actively challenged any sort of thought that made me feel like I can't do X or someone can't do X because they are a woman, or the other way around. I've heard so many times that a man can't look after his children because he's a man. And there's always, in my family growing up, there's always been that divide with my mother looking after the kids at home, cooking, cleaning, and my dad being the breadwinner and providing in other ways. It's an interesting topic though, because I was having this conversation with a friend of mine and we were talking about, well, are men and women really equal? And my answer is always going to be yes, but in different ways. Women's strengths and weaknesses are different to men. And, the role that men traditionally play versus women, both very different. A woman's strengths are a man's weakness, a man's strengths are a woman's weakness. And I really don't like using the term weakness. It has a negative connotation behind it. I think it's more of I'm not a perfect human being. No one is. And how do we kind of work together to make something happen or to be a successful professional or a parent or an individual? But anyways, sorry, going back to unexpected bias and how to address, for me, it's always been, being open to learning, acknowledging my mistakes, being very aware of my mindset and staying curious and connected with my network. And it's for me, it's a very continuous process of being self-aware and allowing myself to recognize the bias. And as Malala once said, when the world is silent, even one voice becomes powerful. So very similar to what Shambhavi said, how can I be that voice and pay that forward to the future generations?
That's really honest and helpful. Thank you, Priya. Shambhavi, switching gears to parenting. Have you found effective ways to break down gender stereotypes with children, perhaps?
Oh, 100%. Having a 3-year-old daughter means I'm right in the middle of this. And let me tell you, kids pick up on everything. So breaking down gender stereotypes starts with the little things, and I try to make it as natural as possible. What Priya said earlier regarding unconscious bias really resonates, and that's what I'm working on with my daughter. For example, when my daughter picks up a truck, no one says, "Oh, that's a boy's toy." Nope, it's just a toy. If she wants to wear a princess dress while digging in the dirt, go for it. I make sure she sees both boys and girls doing all kinds of things, whether it's reading books with strong female leads, showing her that dads cook and moms fix things, or just letting her know she can be anything she wants. And one thing that really works, the way we talk. Instead of saying, "Oh, you're so pretty," I make sure she hears, "You're so strong, kind, and smart." And of course, she's adorable, but I want her to know she's so much more than that. And honestly, half the time, she's the one breaking stereotypes without even knowing it. She'll hand me a toy car and say, "Let's race, Mama." And I'm like, "Yes, let's go." So it's all about keeping their world wide open, no limits, no labels, just possibilities.
Now, yeah, such practical wisdom here. Shambhavi, thank you very much. Annie, in your tech role, why
Hi,
do you
yes.
hi? Why do you think targeted training, in the STEM world, especially in the age of AI, why is it so crucial for advancing gender equality?
Well, I think these are going to be such growth areas within business globally, and it is critical that we're in that space. And because of that, we really need to open up all the opportunities available to all of the talent, whatever gender they are. But traditionally, these were very, very male environments. And it is taking a lot to be able to enable women to catch up in those areas and to seek those opportunities. But if we're going to compete globally, we have to have those opportunities available to the best talents, whether that's male or female. But we are seeing some fantastic changes that are starting to happen and break these doors open. So before coming on here, one of my team members mentioned to me that his daughter's school has started a program where they are really championing STEM in a girls' school. And so these girls have a Formula 24 racing program that's called Hummingbird, and the Hummingbird is the car that they are designing, and these girls are learning construction, they're learning about the performance of the cars, they're learning about how the drivers have to drive these cars, and this is a fantastic opportunity because it really is breaking these key areas open. But these key areas are really important to global society moving forwards. So ultimately, what we need to be doing is ensure that all children, whether they're male or female, we open these opportunities to those children with talents in that area. And it was really great to see that we're actually getting some practical examples of where that's starting to happen in society.
That is amazing to see, Annie. And I think I was just sat here smiling to myself because I'm thinking, if only I was on the Hummingbird program when I was at school, I could have been maybe like the next Lewis Hamilton or something today instead of sat here in IT. But it is what it is. And I guess the future generations is getting the right support and the right sort of girls are being made to feel that they're just as able. So that is really amazing to see.
Absolutely.
I absolutely agree with you, Priya, because I look back at the start of my career, and it would have been absolutely impossible for women
Yeah.
to operate in the environment that we're in. And there are those stories historically. You look at the women in NASA who were responsible for a lot of the design and the engineering and software build, just completely ignored. And that happens so much. And I agree with you, Priya. I kind of slid into IT and network management, but I didn't have the formal background training in it. And I also look at my career and think, would have been a different place had I had that baseline. So completely agree with you, Priya.
Okay, so now let's bring it to everyday actions a little bit. So my question is about, practical steps. What sort of practical steps can we all take to amplify women's voices in our daily work? Shambhavi, your thoughts, please.
Oh, I love this question because amplifying women's voices isn't just about, grand gestures. It's about small, I'm sorry, it's about small everyday actions that add up to real change. And there's so many small things, so small yet practical things anyone can do in everyday life that can add so much weight to it. For example, make space. Sometimes women, especially in male dominated fields, get talked over or interrupted. If you notice it happening, step in, just say, I'd love to hear her finish her thought. It's a small move, but it makes a huge impact. And if you're in a position of influence, use it to bring more women into the conversation. Instead of taking the spotlight, say, who's really knowledgeable? Hey, Annie or Priya, they should weigh in. So at the end of the day, amplifying women's voices isn't just about being nice. It's about building stronger, more inclusive workplaces where everyone benefits. And the best part, we don't have to wait for some big initiative to start. We can do this right now, every day.
Excellent. Priya, your thoughts?
Honestly, I'm nodding away at Shambhavi's thoughts right now because it's very similar to, for me as an agile coach and a scrum master, but also in my day-to-day goings, I ensure I foster sort of an inclusive environment. Exactly what Shambhavi was saying, making sure that everyone has equal opportunities to speak up. So whether that's, during my training or my coaching sessions with my clients, or holding meetings as part of my sprint cycle, and being mindful, just to be mindful of who might be being a bit shy or hiding in the corner, and really make them feel like they can speak up and it's a safe space. And yeah, exactly. And for me, I think I also believe in, giving credit where it's due, and that's something that I not only apply to my personal life but also to my professional. And this simple but important act can really help to amplify their presence and their contributions, making them feel like their voices are just as important as others. And I guess what I love about being a Scrum Master, right at the end of the sprint cycle, where we have a retrospective, and for those that have worked with me, and I've been a Scrum Master for their team. They might be smiling right now because they know what I'm about to say. I've always had a section for kudos. And just by giving a simple kudos or saying a special thank you can really go a long way to ensuring voices are heard and respected, but also to make other people realize in the team that, that voice is just as much respected as anyone else's.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Annie, anything to add?
I think that was wonderful what Priya was just saying then, and I think it is, as Shambhavi was saying, having this awareness that all people do communicate differently and that women can get shouted down and sidelined in business discussions. And there's a really useful tool, which I've done it at a previous company, but it has also been done in areas of Expleo, and it is fantastic. It's called Insights Training, and it gives everybody the understanding that people have different ways of communicating and different communication styles. And when you understand those styles, you can then engage productively with people so that everybody contributes in a positive way. We use that in our team now. And it is incredible how you do pick up on, rather than people having to adjust and become aggressive and shouty, you can understand the different ways of communicating and respond accordingly. But I think there is also something that women can also do for themselves, which is having awareness of their own voice. Hopefully it's disappearing now, but there was a terrible historical culture where women in business thought in order to get on and in order to be heard, they had to behave like the worst male traits. And this is not the case. And it did so much damage, and it did so much damage to women in the workplace, because that competitive, aggressive style alienates people. And even worse, a lot of these women would see other women and attack them as a competitor, which doesn't help the cause of equality. So it's also women having that awareness of their own voice and how they are engaging with fellow women and other colleagues.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, here is a question. What's the one thing you wish future generations of women never had to deal with at work?
Not feeling like they're enough, or feeling like, feeling imposter syndrome every single day at work. I hope that we can accelerate action to making women feel like they are just as equal. And you know what? Everyone feels imposter syndrome. I don't think there's no one that doesn't. There are 5 different types of imposter syndrome, as we learned from our wonderful Amanda Brown at our last lunch and learn session through Women at Expleo. And whatever type of imposter syndrome you feel, I hope that we can move away from that. But we can also try to accept the fact that, okay, if someone is feeling imposter, if a woman is feeling imposter syndrome, how can we all be aware of this, but how can we also put in the right actions to make her feel, just as able, just as strong, just as smart, clever, and all the wonderful describing words that we have.
Shamavi, anything you would say? Perhaps anything you would wish for future generations of women? Something they never had to deal with at work?
I think I really second with what Priya said. And that's why I've said this earlier as well, that I really support mentorship and I really champion mentorship. Because encouragement is great, but opportunities are even better. So whether it's recommending a woman for a leadership role, supporting her in a new project, or just being a sounding board, we all have ways to lift others up. So I just wish that, the next generation who are coming up, they never have to face that feeling that, they're working in isolation. I just hope that they have people to support them and lift them up.
Okay. Annie?
I think I would hope they never experience being told they're not good enough, that door isn't open to you because you're a woman. And I think that what I would hope is that society as a whole changes so that we start to be giving all opportunities to all the relevant talent.
Amen.
Yeah, yeah.
So what's the most ridiculous but true superpower women have at work? For instance, finding lost emails in 3 seconds, or reading minds during meetings, or surviving on coffee and determination. Priya.
I think honestly, for me, it has to be emotional intelligence, reading minds, reading body language, reading even eye contact. Like, I think women have this special power of just being able to read the room so well that they just know how to position themselves, how to make people feel included. It's just a shame that sometimes it doesn't go the other way around for women, but 100% I would say our superpower is emotional intelligence.
Oh, that's a good one.
Annie, what's the superpower? What do you say?
I would completely echo what Priya is saying. I work in a very dynamic and a very driven, amazing, incredible team, and frequently will be given the feedback that we bring. I have got the soft skills and I've got the more three-dimensional view on things not being quite as black and white. Um, so I absolutely echo what Priya is saying, and I think that goes back to the comment that I was saying earlier on about women having awareness of their own voice. That I think a lot of women thought that wasn't valuable for years and years, and it is incredibly valuable. And when we bring that into a team, it really helps amazing things happen.
And Shambhavi, what do you think was a real superpower of
You know
women?
what? Women have lots of superpowers. They have this
Agreed.
they have this uncanny ability to juggle, adapt, and push through challenges while making it all look effortless when it's definitely not. And speaking as a mom, I definitely believe in that. But if I had to pick just one superpower, it would be the ability to see the bigger picture. We are masters at balancing strategy with execution, whether it's leading a team, managing a crisis, or remembering that it's someone's birthday in the office, because we all
Yes.
know who usually handles that. So
Yeah.
I would say that looking at the bigger picture while handling the tiniest details.
Okay, thank you very much. And to wrap up our main discussion, what's been most rewarding about being part of the Women at Expleo community? Annie, you are a member, so perhaps would you like to start?
Yeah, it's seeing how the opportunities for women have changed since I first started work, and I just think that is incredible. Um, uh, but on our first face-to-face Women at Expleo meeting, what was even more incredible was that we did have a man who accepted the invite and he attended, and he was
Wow.
raising all the concerns that we've discussed, which that he was concerned about his partner returning to work and not being able to get employment. He was concerned about what opportunities there were going to be for his daughter in the workplace, and what advice did we have, because she was getting driven down the traditional women do that type of jobs. And that was just fantastic for me, because I'm really passionate about this. This only works if we engage with men, and I think men feel there's a lot of man bashing going on to them at the moment, and they want to disengage from this subject. But what I would say is, when they may roll their eyes at equal pay, but is that still not relevant when it's your household budget that's been affected? And would they say it's acceptable for their partner not to be paid fairly, or would that then become an issue? Returning to work, like this gentleman that came to the meeting, it is relevant when it's your partner and your household budget that's suffering, and when your partner can't get back into the workplace because they've taken an absence to bring up your family. And as this gentleman did, making sure that we don't have opportunities that are closed to our future generations because they're female. So that's really what I've been loving about being part of Women at Expleo.
Thank you. Shambhavi?
For me, being part of Women at Expleo has been, so much more than just joining a network. It's been about real impact, conversations, and real change. And the most rewarding part is the community. There's just something powerful about being surrounded by driven, talented women who get it, who understand the challenges, and the moments when you just need someone to say, yep, I've been there too. So it's like having a built-in support system that lifts you up. And, it has reminded me that change doesn't happen in isolation. It happens when we come together, lift each other up, and just refuse to settle for anything less than what we deserve.
Thank you. Priya, your highlight?
I love that, Shambhavi. Change doesn't happen in isolation. What a beautiful saying. For me, the highlight has to be, it's amazing to be the founder of Women Expleo. It truly is. And on the note about, giving credit where it's due, my partner in crime, who has really expedited Women at Expleo and where it is today, I'd just like to give a special shout out to Tia McGrath. She is an incredible friend, a professional, and a human being. I'm very blessed to be working on this community and to grow the community in 2025. So a massive thank you to her. And they say that your network is your net worth. So for me, the highlight is that I get to meet incredible females like Shambhavi and Annie, which is truly honorable and is a highlight not only just right now in this period of my life, but when I think back and when I reflect on my career in 10 years down the 10 years down the line, it's thanks to Women at Expleo that I've been able to meet women like the two with me on this podcast today. When I exactly whoop whoop, when I joined Expleo in 2022, it was really important for me not only to be part of a consultancy who I see as my backbone to everything I do and all the engagements I go on, but it was also important that I felt there was a network of support. So very similar to what Shambhavi said, who better to have a network of support from like-minded females who can relate, who can understand what it is that you're going through. And this community also offers the chance to build new skills, grow your network, grow leadership qualities, and gain insight from other successful women within the organization, which to me is really fulfilling. I also see a massive part of this community as a platform to raise awareness about everything we have spoken about today. It is so rewarding to be part of a group and community that actively works to educate, share, and inspire others to address issues, whether that's gender discrimination, gender equality, all the way through to how we navigate the feelings of imposter syndrome. And so I'm very, very excited to see where Women at Expleo goes in 2025 and hope that everyone on the journey has just as much fun and takes away something invaluable. Oh, and by the way, I am determined to get my manual license this year.
All the best. I'm sure you can do it, Priya.
Thanks. Thank you.
Great. A huge thank you to Priya, Ani, and Shambhavi for these enlightening conversations. Your experiences remind us why the Accelerate Action theme is so vital in 2025. We hope that today's discussion has inspired you, so please visit our Women in STEM page through the link in the description to learn more about our initiatives and opportunities. Remember, International Women's Day isn't just a calendar date, it's a daily commitment to action. Whether through mentoring, amplifying voices, or challenging biases, Every step matters in closing that 130-year gap. And for now, until next time, keep accelerating action in your own spaces. Thanks for listening.